region.
Combat brigades.
Yeah, let me address both those issues. I get this question a lot about ISIS in Iran, and what will you do? So let me just try to handle both real quickly. On ISIS, the answer is we'll commit whatever troops are necessary to begin to defeat ISIS. And that means that we have to have some forward deployed units, special forces, and maybe others. If that is what is determined after rigorous study, that is what is necessary, I will absolutely commit that. Because we have to start defeating ISIS. And this goes back to, again, fundamentally understanding the nature of the enemy. ISIS is a caliphate. You say, well, who cares? They do. They care. Otherwise, they wouldn't have announced that they're a caliphate. They announced they're a caliphate for a reason. Because it has significance in the Islamic world. And what is that significance? Once you have established a caliphate, and you cannot do so unless you control a state. Under Islamic law, Al-Qaeda was never able to announce a caliphate. Why? Because they never controlled anything. They weren't a state. Under Sharia law and under Islamic jurisprudence, you have to be a ruler of an area and a state in order to be able to declare a caliphate. What's the big deal about declaring a caliphate? Well, according to Islamic law, if you accept the legitimacy of this caliphate, you are obligated to serve it. And so that's why they're able to recruit people from all over the world, because they say they're a caliphate, and under Islamic law, they are required to serve it if they see it as a legitimate caliphate. What makes a caliphate legitimate? This is a very, very long answer, and I'm going to make it really short as I can. Under Islamic teaching, how do you know whether you're doing right or wrong? This was a very complicated issue. Now, in the Jewish faith, it's very clear. I mean, you have very clear teachings of what is right and wrong. In Islam, not so much. Not so much. And that's because of the nature of how they view God, Allah. They view God as all-powerful. Period. Stop. The nature of God in Islam is that Allah is all-powerful. So, He can do whatever He wants, and we can't understand what is right or wrong, only what Allah blesses. That's good. And so how do we know whether that caliphate is legitimate in the eyes of the Muslim world? Well, is Allah blessing it? Is it expanding? Is it prospering? If it is, then Allah is blessing. If it is not, then Allah is not, and we have no obligation to follow it. So, it gets down to that fundamental point. Unless you understand the enemy and how they are motivated and how they motivate others, then your strategy on how to defeat them can be actually very perilous, like containment. That is a perilous strategy. Why? Because you are legitimizing the caliphate. And over time, that legitimacy will propagate thousands and thousands of terrorists all over the world, including here in Iowa. The longer this caliphate remains, and the more stable it is, the more legitimate it is, and the more dangerous it is. That's why it has to be defeated. And by the time the next president comes in, I suspect that caliphate will still be there. And I suspect we will have a much more virulent world that we are dealing with, thus the comments of my friend from Israel. Second, Iran.
Senator, excuse me, with all due respect, you've wandered away from the questioner's concern. Given everything you said, let's accept it's true, would you put U.S. combat troops on the ground? I said yes right at the beginning. Well, you said there were troops there. So, no. If you're president...
Okay, if I didn't say that, I thought I did.
You will send U.S. Army forces...
Yeah, I said I would put... I'll quote myself. I said I would put whatever troops are necessary to defeat ISIS. That's what I said.
Okay.
Right. Okay? And then I went on and said why you had to defeat ISIS. Okay? You got it?
Okay, good. I've been given permission for one last question. Affordable Care Act. I presume you would want to replace it or certainly repeal it. Specifically, what would you replace it with?